Good evening, Trek fans. Here's your buddies, Butch and Rob, Butch and Rob, here to pose the question for you. The Jeopardy, final Jeopardy tonight is on my person. So, the answer is Trek. Rob, you're buzzing in.
Is there a Trek in your pocket?
Correct. In the form of a question. Well done. You win Final Jeopardy. Enjoy this year's supply of turtle wax and a year's supply of rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. You have joined us here at Is That a Trek in Your Pocket? Number 4. As you recall, of course, if you've been with us, and of course you have, we went through the entire series of Bantam novels of Star Trek, which were, 68 to 71. Yeah. And now we have begun, or 68 to 81, I guess. And now we have begun the pocket books, which are the books that Rob and I grew up on reading when we were in junior high and high school, the pocket Trek books. This is the earliest one I remember. Today, we are rolling them at random. We have a list of the first 50, and we roll them at random. This one was number 3, The Klingon Gambit from October 1981 by Robert E. Vardamann. Rob, first of all, introduce yourself and then say, what do you remember do you remember getting this book like really early, or was this one you picked up later?
I can tell you because I'm looking at my original copy that I signed with a signature that does not look anything like it does now. And it says, my 31st Star Trek novel, August 26, 1986.
Oh, wow. So you got it almost 5 years after it came out. That's cool.
Yeah, so that was when we were right in the neck deep in gobbling up going to used bookstores and getting all the ones we'd missed. The first one I really remember, I think, is The Entropy Effect.
Yeah, that's the first one I remember. Although, if I'm going to be honest about this, Rob, so in 1981, my family moved from Casper, Wyoming to Traverse City, Michigan. And I remember Traverse City is a resort town, so there's a lot of the resort town stuff, the bookstores, the ice cream shops, all those kind of things. And they had a used bookstore there, and a bookstore rather, and at the new bookstore, I remember seeing this book on the shelf because it had the picture that would definitely get Butch's attention, which is a Klingon battlecruiser on the front of the cover. So I remember seeing this in the bookstore, probably right after it came out. So it's brand new on the shelves on the little display case there. A Star Trek novel with a Klingon ship on it. Did not buy it, of course, because I didn't start reading these. When I did finally start reading the Trek books, I was reading the Star Trek 10, the Star Trek logs and stuff like that. Is it the James Bush? Is that who wrote the?
I don't know about the logs.
The guy who wrote all the novelizations of all the episodes of the original series, the original series and then the animated series, right? So, that's right. But I did not pick up a novel for a while, probably until close to when you and I started reading these. So this is one of the earliest of the pocket novels. I think the first one was the motion picture, the second one was the Entropy Effect, like you said, and this was the third one. So very early.
Well, and the pocket ones are the ones you can't start off with more credibility than having the first one written by Gene Roddenberry.
Mm-hmm.
And the pocket ones are the ones that have given us some of the canon of Sulu's first name, that kind of stuff. I think Uhura too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So while the Bantam ones are kind of a fun, really mixed bag, the pocket ones are what I think you and I think of as actual Star Trek novels.
That's right, and this is probably the one of the first ones. I'll be honest. My read through of this, I said in my notes below that this felt like it was a Bantam book. It's a Trek novel, understandably, but it felt like it was. You got to figure the guy writing this was probably writing it while Bantam still had the thing. So he's like, I'm going to write a book for that, and then they're like, hey, well, actually, Pocket can buy your book now, kind of a thing. So because it did feel kind of like that. The Bantam books were chock full of Klingons, right? I mean, we didn't really see much besides Klingons in most of the Bantam books, honestly, except the occasional, Phoenix guy we saw twice and stuff like that. But so far in this, we've bounced around with some weird aliens and some sentient stars and some Romulans in our first 3 adventures. But now we get Klingons who have a gambit of some sort. So what's your overall impression of this book? Maybe we can start from a big level and say, what was your overall impression?
It did feel Bantam-esque. It's short and kind of breezy. It felt a little bit like an Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
In the, kind of the way it played out, but it was not exactly on point. I didn't feel with the characters, which felt very Bantam.
Yeah.
It did, like a lot of these books we've seen, it did seem like maybe it planted seeds for later stuff. I got a definite Encounter at Farpoint vibe.
Yes. I'm glad you got that vibe, because the vibe I got was Shore Leave, but I think Encounter at Farpoint is more correct.
Well, and they're very similar, right? The idea of you think of something and somehow it's getting manifested without you really knowing about it. So,
but in fact, if I remember Encounter at Farpoint, it's about them finding, there's a city there, and they're like, how did they build this fantastic city and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it was it a space station?
A space station, right? Yeah. How'd they build that? And it's like, well, the answer is kind of manifested itself. Not to spoil the story at all, ladies and gentlemen, but we already read the book.
But it didn't feel, I didn't remember this story at all, which I think is probably something I will be saying again in 6 months. But, the motion picture is a pretty epic book. Entropy Effect I've never entirely forgotten.
Nope.
This one is a little more forgettable, and so I thought it was okay. I don't think I'll be revisiting it again probably in my lifetime, but you never know. We might be redoing these.
I was gonna say we somehow picked it up this time and revisited it. So I think your assessment's on point. There was a couple things, I think one of the things that I took away from maybe planting seeds is that they're definitely making sure they dipped in this a little bit in the original series, but they're kind of emphasizing that when they describe kind of what it's like to move up in the command structure of a Klingon ship, you backstab your commanding officer and take his place. That's a mirror universe Federation kind of a thing, but you're definitely seeing one of the characters in this book really, really trying to move up the ladder of command in that Klingon ship. So good for him. He's ambitious, and I guess that's good for him. But I did. But this one thing so the gist of this is a lot of these people are kind of like, whatever they're interested in, they get hyper focused on and stuff like that. And then they play a little with Spock, because Spock's got 2 halves to himself, right? So Spock is sometimes ultra ridiculously super logical, and sometimes he's ultra ridiculously super, emotional. But I thought they could have done that a little better. I see what they were doing. I just thought they could have done it a little better, I guess.
Yeah, it's in character for Spock. We saw, he does tend to overcorrect.
We're talking to you that was survives. Yeah.
Saw that throughout the series, and in the motion picture, basically. But there was definitely also maybe this is more in the spirit of Bantam too. But God, I just really wonder who Spock wants to bang.
Yes, they're playing to all the females fans out there who are just like, I want to be Lieutenant Avid, sir. Yeah. Exactly. And they're even playing to a much more niche market, which is, I would sure like to be Scotty's chief, if you know what I mean. I would get a little bit of that too, so that's good. If that's your bag. Not very many people's bag, but for those who is, it's fine. The other thing that I thought they did a lot in here, they did a lot. When I was writing the notes for this, I was like, I'm going to make sure I write down all the really good zingers back and forth between McCoy and Spock. And he does a lot of them, but I'm going to say it. I give him credit for putting a lot of them in there. I didn't find a whole lot of them that really landed that well. So I didn't mention him too much, but give him credit for knowing that that's like a key to Butch's enjoyment of a Star Trek episode is when Spock and McCoy are, throwing barbs at each other. That's always fun.
That's good stuff. And And I thought, honestly, I thought Kirk was a little off in this story. So that's kind of a bummer. He is a fairly major character in the series.
A little bit,
and,
once in a while.
Yeah, so I thought they could have done the author could have done a better job with his portrayal of Kirk. I realized that Kirk's not himself, but he seemed pretty out of sorts.
Yeah. Well, listen. Yeah, let me agree with you. I think you're right. But that's being said, I was like, is Kirk supposed to be affected by this? Because they emphasized all the things. Well, Spock is emphasized. Spock is feeling it because he's back and forth and back and forth. And McCoy's a Luddite. He doesn't like the technology. Scotty's obsessed with his engines. Even Lieutenant Kyle's over there sculpting while he's supposed to be on duty. Uhura's daydreaming about Mbenga. Chekhov's wanting to fight and fight and fight and fight. Sulu. Anyway, we're going to forget Sulu because nobody ever mentioned Sulu in this story. He's like there twice. But Kirk, it's like they don't talk about what's wrong with Kirk. It's all from Kirk. It's all Kirk going, that's wrong with Scott. That's what's wrong with Scotty. And, that's what's wrong with McCoy. But Kirk doesn't ever think, I wonder what's wrong with me.
Yeah, he does want to blast Spock in the face.
That's true. That is true. That's the one time when I think they played their hand. You're right. He's like, I had to do everything I could to keep from punching my first officer. Yeah, well, yeah. I think we've all been there. We don't have...
Even in the spoiler court-martial or whatever hearing for Chekhov, he was kind of almost more like one of those guest star assholes.
Yes, he was an ambassador in training, is what he was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's all well and good, but can you get to the point, Spock? I got an ensign to fry here. Is that really what Kirk would do?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so I don't know.
All right, so let's see. So I was going to tell you a couple things about Robert E. Vardamann, our author here. It turns out he wrote 2 Star Trek novels in his career. He wrote this one, number 3, and he also wrote number 12, Mutiny on the Enterprise, which we will get to at some point.
I think, if I remember, was one I enjoyed a little more.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what happens other than I assume there's a mutiny. So.
Well, and that's a title that will sell some copies.
Yes. Absolutely. As you know, there has never been a mutiny in the recorded history of Starfleet, Chekhov. But that being said, I'm looking at this novel and I'm going, okay, the novel's name is The Klingon Gambit. And I was like, so what is the gambit the Klingons are playing here? Because it feels like, is it just like they want to mine some topoline? Is that what the gambit is? It's like, I don't know. Or is the gambit the fact that the first officer or the junior officer is trying to take the command away from his captain? Do you know what the title means, Rob, is what I'm asking.
I think it means fake news. I think that was a red herring.
Fake news. That's exactly. That's a term I've never heard before. Fake news. That's kind of catchy.
Maybe it's green news.
Maybe. Maybe it'll catch on. Yeah, so... but Vardamann, by the way, still around. He's written a lot of fantasy novels, mystery novels, sci-fi, non-Trek novels. He's 75 years old, still with us.
Is he living by any of our relatives? Maybe we can go.
We should have had him as a guest. Whenever we do Mutiny on the Enterprise, we'll have him as a guest star on our podcast. That works for the other Star Trek podcasts I listen to, Enterprise Incidents. It's their second to last episode coming up next week, and they announced that their guest star for this next week, I shit you not, William Shatner is their guest star for next week.
Not too shabby. Vardamann or Voldemort or whatever.
He who shall not be named. Yes.
Yes. He's not going to know that our podcast has 0 listeners.
Yeah. He's going to say, there's a podcast. Let's talk about a book I wrote, good Lord, 41 years ago. That's how old this book is, Rob. Yeah. But it's great. So do you want to spend some more time talking about it, or do you want to just talk about it?
So let's talk about it.
All right. It is a book that has 11 chapters. So something to be said about a short book with relatively short chapters. It's a breezy read. I will give it that. So if you see it on the shelf, it's not going to take too much time for you to pick it up and read it.
You can read it on the flight. What was it, 158 pages?
158. That's exactly right. So, all right. So how about we go back and forth? You interested in going back and forth?
Well, I would be, except I only took notes for chapters 1 through 5 2 months ago. When I finished it today, I did not take notes because I was like, It'll be in my head.
Why don't you tell us about chapter 1 then?
All right. So apparently this takes place 3 years into the original 5-year mission.
Yeah, I read online that it was I should have written it down. They said the episodes that the star date appears between, but it's like in the middle of like season 3 episodes.
Okay. Yeah. So they're mapping Delta Canaris 4. Sorry, Jay, that is not cannabis. Canaris. They're on a routine mission. That's always a good start. You know it's going to be good when we're on a routine mission.
That's right.
They encounter some violent gravity waves. Morale has never been better. I thought it was cool. They said the planet looks like Jupiter. I'm just apparently writing random notes here. Kirk has reports to do. Spock says the planet has some paper-like life forms. That sounds a lot like Arthur C. Clarke in one of the, I don't know if it was 2010 or 2051, talked about kind of paper-like aliens on Jupiter.
Almost two-dimensional. I've read a little bit of Arthur C. Clarke, yeah, and I know that he was definitely Jupiter adjacent in his science interest. So, but yeah, the idea is it's such crushing gravity that they would be flat creatures, right?
Yeah, kind of floating around and.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. There's a fun lecture to Scotty and his hot assistant about McConnell about gambling. And then they get a coded message from Starfleet that says they have to take off at Warp 8. Holy mackerel, Butch.
This
is how you know it's early Trek.
That's exactly right. Warp 8. It's just crazy. Yeah, can I say that when they get the message, this is not the first and not the last novel that refers to messages coming in from Starfleet in a squirt.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder if that's an actual like military term or something like that, right? It's a very short message that they figure you don't need coded because it's so short that nobody can intercept it.
Right. You have to, if you'd have to be listening and know it was coming really to catch it.
Yep.
And we, I think you're probably with me on this. We've heard this so many times. I have just always kind of accepted that it's a thing. I have no idea if it really is, but it seems like it makes sense.
And they never used it during the TV series, right? It's not a term we ever heard them use on the show. So it seems like it's a novel thing, right? I don't remember ever hearing it on any Star Trek series, but it's all over the novels. So I just had to mention that because
and so I've never really thought about it because I've always just kind of take it for granted. It's probably been in. I'd be curious how many books it's been in because I feel like I've always known what it meant. I've always known it was a thing, but you're right. It's not from the show. Yep,
exactly. But we do hear it. We do read it a lot. So, yeah. So, anyway, I just had to interject that. You may continue. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, it turns out, Butch, and I know you follow the Starfleet news service as closely as I do, so you saw the headline. The POW has been attacked and all hands are dead.
Yeah, of unknown causes.
Unknown causes, but there's a Klingon dreadnought there. And so, everybody is going to assume that the Klingons did it. I'm okay with that so far. I've seen Kirk jump to conclusions before. But there was a point in here. They mentioned that a photon torpedo is powerful enough to devastate a planet's surface. Tell that to Star Trek 5.
Where they send it down and they try to blow up that god alien.
Like a grenade there. I mean, one photon torpedo devastating the whole surface of a planet seems like an overreach on the author's part here. That feels very Bantam.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're not exactly sure what how to convert this into that and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And anyway, lastly, my last notes for chapter 1 is there's a call from the planet. There's an asshole Andorian scientist working with the Vulcans there studying some ruins. So that's chapter 1. That's a pretty good setup for an opening chapter.
Yeah. I thought so. And again, dreadnoughts. We had a dreadnought in the last book we read, My Enemy, My Ally. Of course, in that one, they called it a destroyer. But it was a dreadnought, right? It's a big ship with lots of weapons. And they even reference a couple of them. They're like, well, we're not a dreadnought. We're a heavy cruiser. Where's our closest dreadnoughts? And they list a couple. They list the Concordium and the Dominion are nearby. But I was like, what, the Ineu's not anywhere nearby? It was maybe it hadn't been built by the Nebians yet, I guess.
Hey, Butch, do you think it's kind of like, I feel like the movie series suffer from this a little bit, where you have to continually be upping the stakes?
Yes.
So, it's like, oh, well, shit, we blew up the Enterprise in the last episode. What are we going to, and Spock died in this movie or whatever. What are we going to do to always one-up it? I wonder if they're doing that because they didn't do that in all the episodes, right? It wasn't always more. You could have smaller stories, but they don't seem to be doing that in the novels as much. They will, but in this one, it's like it's almost like if it's not a galactic war or dreadnoughts everywhere, what's the point of having spaceships out there?
Yeah, it's always like, well, and again, we get the reference to the Organian Peace Treaty so they're already talking potential galactic war, right? If the Klingons killed those Vulcans aboard the T'Pau, we're going to be at war with them, and can we hang in a fight with them and all this stuff? So it's immediately, the idea is it's like, it's not just a little skirmish, it could lead to interstellar war is what it is, right? So that's always how it starts up. So we can move on. So they introduce the a-hole scientist, who's an Andorian, by the way, leading a team of Andorian scientists. His name is Dr. Threl von Daw, is what they say his name was.
Yeah.
That's fun. There's no apostrophes or unpronounceable letters in there. It's like, it's a little unwieldy, but at least you can phonetically pronounce it if you wanted to.
That makes me very happy. That is something I wish more authors would do.
Yep.
Keep it pronounceable.
Yep. So he beams up to the Enterprise for a confab, and he's annoyed. He's got ruins he could be exploring. There's a pyramid down there, damn it. And he's pissed off that there's that his digging equipment's still aboard the T'Pau, but they're like, oh, you can't have it because we don't know what killed the Vulcans. We don't dare send you stuff from that ship. It could kill you too. He doesn't seem to be all that concerned about it. And he also doesn't seem to be that concerned about the dead Vulcans either, Thrall von Daw does. So nice way to be a team player there, buddy, I guess.
Like every I've ever met. I don't give a shit about you or your ship or whatever. Me. That's what he's saying.
Well, that is what it is. So then it's like, okay, well, that didn't really get anywhere. So why don't we pick up the phone and just cold call the Klingon ship? So good for him. So Kirk calls the Klingon ship, and we meet Captain Kalan of the Terror. That's the name of the ship, the Terror. Yeah, it's a very cool name. Absolutely. And so he's a little, when you're captain of a dreadnought, you brag up about your ship. It's like, we could blow you up with one hand tied behind our back. Because I noticed in chapter 1 that McCoy comments that a single Klingon ship wouldn't stand a chance against the Enterprise. He said that'd be like tickling a bull with a feather. But it turns out a dreadnought is.
Is that because of the maneuverability and all that, better shields and stuff of the Enterprise?
I guess the Enterprise is normally better armed and better shielded than most Klingon vessels, but a dreadnought is the Enterprise, like the Enterprise is to a regular Klingon ship or whatever.
Yeah, but they've always made a point, and maybe this is from the novels too, that Klingons just don't really give a shit about defense, and they put all their effort to the offensive weapons, and so they're really formidable. If but maybe they're, Valuev-like in their attacks.
Valuev-like in their attacks, or Vladimir Klitschko-like in their chin, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah. Right. Something like that.
You don't want to get hit by him.
That's exactly. Don't get hit by him, but if you can land a punch, you might be okay. So there's a lot of posturing between. Kirk brags about some upgrades that didn't really happen, but it's like, Corbomite. We got the Corbomite thing put in there, all that stuff. You don't dare attack us. Then you start to get. This is the first sign that something's really not right aboard the Enterprise, because McCoy says it twice. He's like, just start shooting at him. You should start a fight with the Klingons. This does not sound like Leonard McCoy at all. Leonard McCoy is always like, "Why'd you start a fight, you dumbass?" With him, he'll start a fight with an admiral any day or with an ambassador, but he doesn't really usually want to fight Klingons or Romulans.
No, you could injure somebody in a fight, so why there could be loss of life. Usually, that's his paramount concern.
Yep. The other thing that happens is with the Klingon ship in orbit, they are jamming all transmissions, so Kirk can't get any messages to or from Starfleet. On the other hand, he doesn't have to submit his crew readiness reports anymore, so that's good because all the static is out there. So that takes us to the end of Chapter 2. What do you got in Chapter 3?
Well, in Chapter 3, we got a war of nerves.
Yes.
Between the two ships. So they're at a little bit of an impasse. The crew's on edge, acting squirrely. And, we've seen this before in the show too, but I thought it was kind of fun. Not only are they fighting and squabbling, they're having affairs left and right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like
banging away.
There's like an acute underwear shortage. Everybody has left their underwear in somebody else's cabin this week. Yeah, it's crazy.
There's pillow fights and wet T-shirt contests. I mean, and we see how it's affecting the core members of the crew left. So Scotty's starting to do all his tinkering. He's going all not trust his instruments. Line from Chapel that I found because he wants to crewman up, who got in a fight or something, but he doesn't want to use the probably painless, easy to handle garden variety tools that he's got at his disposal in the 23rd century. So he's going to sew him up with catgut. And Chapel says, "Do you want me to get him a bullet to bite down on, or will you just use a shot of," what did she say? A shot of red eye.
A shot of red eye. That's right. Yeah, I actually looked it up when I read that. I was like, did doctors actually use cat gut for suturing? And if so, when did they stop using cat gut? Not because I don't want cat gut in my skin, but when did they stop going, you know what? We're out of suture stuff. Can you go out in the alley and kill some more cats so we can sew people up again?
I don't like that does bother me. But it's fun, and then you have some crew woman kissing and trying to seduce Spock. So that's only happened every other Bantam book, but kind of a crazy Chapter 3. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. That's Lieutenant Avitz, Kendra Avitz. I had it in mind. She's the science section. Spock has noticed her. We hear, I don't know if it's now or a little bit later, that Spock has noticed her. If I were to guess, I'm saying, look, who am I casting to play Lieutenant Avitz in this? I wrote down Phoebe Cates. I just threw that out there. I don't know. Not too young, not too old, but you have to have somebody pretty enough that's gonna like attract Spock's attention. So and it's the early '80s, so I'm gonna say Phoebe Cates.
Which one's Phoebe Cates?
So Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with, and again, this is not '80s, but I just watched last night. I watched 2 Days in the Valley. After Darlene fell asleep. I don't know if you've ever seen that. If you want to see a young naked Charlize Theron.
Oh, there you go.
I was really surprised, but I will go with Terry Hatcher.
Oh, Terry Hatcher, definitely good choices. Of course, Terry Hatcher would guest star on Star Trek: The Next Generation, so she had Star Trek in her future.
Very good.
Good for her. So, all right. So, well done on Chapter 3. Yeah, we're starting to see all sorts of weird things happen. Like you said, you mentioned General Mayhem in the hallways. There's fist fighting and stuff like that, but implications that they're half naked crew members chasing each other around the hallways. It's great. All right, so Chapter 4. Chekhov is left in command for the first of several times in this book. I'm like, dude, Sulu's right over there, right? He's right there. Sulu's right there. Why don't you leave him in charge? It's fine. He's making the thing about he wants to Chekhov to get a little bit more command experience and stuff like that. And we know from the show that Sulu got to be left in charge a few times. So like I said,
would have been back. Sulu's not filming the Green Berets in season 3, so he was there, like you said.
That's right. He's around. We do hear him mentioned, at least in this case. So, yeah, I will agree. We get more signs that the corridors are a shit show for the most part. The drunk crew, somebody who's like supposed to be in atmospheric control is like drunk on duty and is like, is that why it's getting hard to breathe out here or something like that? It's, these are important jobs you should be doing. I don't know why the ship can't do it itself. I mean, my heater knows to turn on when it gets cold in here. And turn off when it gets warm. My furnace does that by itself. So I would assume that the atmospheric control, the life support, might be able to do it without the guy being there constantly adjusting it. But whatever.
Maybe and I always did like that. They had a nice mix in the original series of you had your mundane tasks, your fuel consumption reports, if you will, your cups of coffee. But they also had, in addition to the more glamorous stuff, maybe something to do with, zipping around the various solar systems and having outer space to deal with and quasars and high speed. It requires a little bit of tinkering now and then, and you got to adjust some dials. So I'm willing to go along with it.
That's fair. I'm completely cool too. And speaking of making adjustments on the fly, Scotty and Chief McConnell have like the entire engineering deck, running all over the place with pieces of the entire ship from all over the place, including the food processors, so they can enhance the engine. By the way, let's talk a little bit of Chief McConnell has a Scottish accent and red hair. So if you'll bear with me, I say, what the hell? Let's shoot for the moon. Say like 1990 Nicole Kidman for Chief McConnell. I think we may as well shoot for the moon. I'm not even saying Nicole Kidman. I'm saying 1990 Nicole Kidman, damn it. I'm going, yeah.
What's Ron Howard's daughter's name?
Bryce Dallas Howard. Yes. I think that would be a good choice, too.
Pretty, or was. I don't know.
You're a lot likely to get a call back from her agent than Nicole Kidman's agent. So you may as how about we go mine first choice and then Bryce Dallas Howard's our fallback for casting that one. So that's good.
At least do like the stunts. She can do the stunt double.
That's exactly right. So and more signs that it's not just the crew, but it's our main characters that are having problems. That Bones offers Spock plastic surgery to fix his ears, and Spock is offended and like walks out on him. Okay, that's really weird. Spock getting offended by a McCoy comment and like not wanting to hang around and listen to any more of that. That's a little weird.
Garden variety one.
Yeah. I mean, nothing. He's been way more out of line than that before. So then Bones is acting like a Luddite and he doesn't trust any of his equipment. But we already saw that in the last chapter. And then we get a really fun, very brief, thankfully, encounter where Chapel and Lieutenant Avitz run into each other, and they just start all but like at each other about who likes Spock more and who Spock likes more. I believe the word slut is passed back and forth at least once between those two. Damn.
We're in danger of having a surplus of catgut.
Or at least a parental explicit lyrics label slapped on this thing, for sure. So, meanwhile, the Klingons are once again asserting that the Enterprise is violating an Organian peace treaty. They don't trust having Spock and stuff down there, but and there's a little more talk about why are the Andorians? It must be something on the ship because the Andorians don't seem to be affected by this. Of course, we learn later that they are, but at this point they don't know that they are. So, all right. So how about you got chapter 5? You said.
Yeah, I do. Let's see. Okay, Uhura's fantasizing about Benga.
That's exactly what I said too. Benga.
Yeah. Spock is being stirred, if you know what I mean, because of his hot assistant. much like I was last night watching Charlize. Spock asked to beam down to the planet, and that's where he's stirred by his hot assistant. The Andorian scientist thinks the planet's inhabitants, something lived underground. Must have.
Yeah,
must have lived underground.
Yep.
Right, because the only evidence of a civilization on this planet is these ruins. And there's no other evidence that anybody's been there for millennia. So this Andorian scientist is really keen on figuring that out. He's hypothesizing left and right. Kirk's arguing with Kaylan or whatever the guy's name is.
I think that's close enough, yeah.
Yeah, about Spock having beamed down to the planet. He invites the Klingon guy over to the Enterprise to look around. I was like, what? Why would you do that? To make sure that the Enterprise isn't up to anything, which I thought was a little bizarre.
Yeah, it is bizarre. They use that. I guess they use that time a little bit to kind of like poke, embarrass him while he's there too.
Yeah, and when they're doing that, Kirk and Bones are kind of sowing the seeds of fear of mutiny in the commander. It's pretty funny. So that's what I had for chapter 5. But they're kind of being like, "Wow, you have an ambitious crew or whatever." Or,
yeah, they're like, they're like, well, if we have crew that misbehaves, they don't get dessert. And Kaylan's like, dessert? Yeah, we're kind of having to like execute people. And you're like, no pie for you, Lieutenant. The one other thing I think we should mention here is that when the Klingon commander beams over, he brings his junior officer Kislath with him. Kislath is going to play a role in this. So this is Kislath's first appearance in this, is when he beams over with him. And so he's listening carefully, I guess. Yeah, but that's it. That's kind of it. And this is the other thing I wrote down is that Spock is on the planet with Avitz, and he gets Thralvon blocked, is what I wrote. But that's going to come to a head, as it were, in chapter 6, because Kirk, is continuing to spar with Kaylan, and they're executing mutineers, is what he hears. They intercept a message and finds out that there's mutinies happening on the Klingon ship and people being executed for it. Because Uhura, credit to her, is able to cut off their, intercept their communications to their base or whatever. And then Thralvon calls Spock a bungler. That doesn't happen very often. And he also calls Lieutenant Avitz lumpy. But I'm left to imply from the other descriptions that she's lumpy in all the ways that Andorians don't like, but all the way humans do. So
all the right places.
That's right. So maybe there's that. Spock is a mess, and Avitz will not let him be. I wrote down, no means no. He's trying to say no, and she's not having it. And then at some point, he goes away to try to meditate all this away, and he has an encounter. He tries to meditate and become logical, and he has an encounter with something that makes him feel like God, he says, or makes it feel like it was God. It's
chapter where not only are they executing people left and right on the Klingon ship, but the guy also executed his own daughter. Is that right?
Yeah, that might have been one of the people that was executed. That's always a sign, is that, it's when that happens. You kind of get the sense that something serious about there. So
yeah, I thought it was kind of funny, for all the, this, presumably will get tied up neatly at the end. There are a lot of Klingons who die in this little misunderstanding.
Yeah, whoopsie.
Of a book.
But they got plenty of Klingons to burn, so it's cool. And so the working theory had been is that what happened to the Vulcans and what might be happening to them on Enterprise may be a new Klingon weapon. But now they're starting to get the sense, well, the Klingons are having, mutinies on board their ship, so maybe they're being affected too. So that's the first sign that maybe the Klingons aren't responsible for what happened to the Vulcans. Maybe, right? And so at some point, Kirk leaves Chekhov in charge for the third time. And this time it doesn't go well, because at this time Chekhov's her interception has another message. And then we learn later that's a message that would never have gotten away from the jamming signal that's being put out. But they make it sound like they want to attack, and so Chekhov immediately starts ordering the Enterprise to fire on it. Luckily, it doesn't happen.
Right, we're going to do a preemptive attack on the bigger ship, and we're just going to go ahead and start this battle ourselves. And
right.
Luckily, be like, whoa.
Well, yeah, they've been talking a lot in this book about how if the Klingons fire first, the Enterprise is going to lose. But the only way the Enterprise can beat this ship is to sneak attack it, right? So, but they don't want to be the ones to start a war, so they're not going to do that. But Chekhov comes close to doing it, and that's going to get him into hot water. So, because in Chapter 7, then Kirk opens that Board of Inquiry you mentioned to determine whether Chekhov's actions deserve court-martial. And this is where Spock steps forward as a character witness for Chekhov, not so much as a character witness for Chekhov, but to say, look, there's a whole bunch of us that are having troubles right now, right? Something's affecting all of us in adverse ways. Chekhov's one of them. Even I'm one of them, he says, and that takes a lot of guts for him to say that.
But what was weird is Kirk's like, yeah, can you show me how this is relevant to this hearing? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, you're right. That's the spot, I think, right, that's the most obvious. Kirk is obviously also affected by this. Is like, shouldn't he care a little bit about hearing this? Like, just get to the point. When do I get to kill Chekhov? He's like, yeah, no, that's not it. And then they decide to dismiss the charges against Chekhov. Whew, crisis averted. And then almost immediately after that, we learn that the Klingons have attacked the Andorians on the planet below.
Hey, Butch.
Yeah.
If I may interrupt a little.
Oh, please do.
We hear this a lot in Star Trek, and I don't know if it's mostly books, but the idea that if you screw up, maybe it's from the movies too, but if you screw up in Starfleet, you're going to get put on a prison planet or a prison asteroid or whatever. That almost sounds very Klingon-like, right?
Yeah.
It's like if they find out that Chekhov has, overstepped his bounds and or whatever, committed a miscarriage of his leadership role, he's going to get a lifetime sentence. That seems harsh. Like, not just kick him out, or, I mean, doesn't it seem kind of a little extra harsh? I get that it's, you know what I mean?
You got to set the stakes. It's also possible that they're over exaggerating the potential penalties because they're under effect. Kind of like in Turnabout Intruder when Kirk, who's under the control of, what's her face, is like, the penalty's death. And they're like, no, it's not. Could be that.
Yeah.
So,
And I've always reconciled myself with that episode by just assuming that she might feel like women never get promoted or whatever. That doesn't mean it's a rule. She might be talking about like the good old boys club or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily mean Janice Lester. That's who we're talking about.
Janice, that's right, of course. How could we forget? Because it's been too long since we've heard Jay say Janice.
Yeah.
So
maybe Chekhov's just thinking that's what it would happen to him if he's convicted. You're right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I love how when we find out that the Klingons have attacked the Andorians below, and also the Federation team from the Enterprise below, Spock's first thought is Avits, and that made me think, the women is what I was thinking. Yeah, which is Spock yelling that from the cage, of course, quite out of character, of course. He insists on going down after her, and Kirk's like, no, I think I'm going to take somebody more level-headed with me than you right now, Spock. Hey, Chekhov, what are you doing, Chekhov? You want to come down? So that's great.
And Chekhov's got his hand on his phaser, like, Kirk, are you paying attention to this? You just sleepwalking through this book? What are you doing?
Yes. There's a little bit of that. So they beam down to the planet to meet with Kalon. Kalon's not going to come to the Enterprise and meet with him again because he doesn't trust him. So he's down there, and it turns out Kislath was behind all of this attack. Kalon didn't order it. Kislath did it. And we find out that Chekhov's got and I'm quoting now, titanium steel grip, and disarms Kislath, not for the first time and not for the last time.
If I may, Butch, correct you, I think you mean Kislath.
That's correct. Gene Simmons of Kislath. That's right. So, the crew and the Andorians aren't dead, of course. They're just been imprisoned, and Kislath is, keeps trying to keeps trying to like edge his way into there, and Bones is kind of like implying, "Oh, it looks like Kaylan. Looks like you got an officer who thinks he could do your job better than you can, huh?" Which is great work on Bones' part because, like, you know, and Spock says that Spock determines that it's probably topoline on the planet surface that the Klingons are after. Federation needs topoline. Klingons need topoline. You use it in your life support systems. The difference is the Federation's got lots of planets with topoline, like Capella 4 from which episode was that? Friday's Child. That's right. That's a Friday's Child episode. That's where they were looking for mining rights to a topoline on that planet as well.
Was it?
Yeah, that's what I looked it up, and that's what I found as Capella. Yeah.
What was the book we read recently where it was something that they used like salt on their,
Oh, which one? It was Doctor's Orders, where they were there just trying to get like some food additives. It's yeah.
I feel like,
damn it, I could really go for some Mexican Tapatio hot sauce. You got any of that? No, but we're gonna mine it on this planet over here, and then we'll have some.
Gotta have Worcestershire. When you need it, you gotta have it.
Yep. All right, so everything seems to be going well. They talk their way around. It's like, well, maybe we'll let you do the mining of this, and we'll look at the ruins, and everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, a hole opens up in the ground, and all the Klingon mining equipment falls down the hole. And you're like, oh shit, because next chapter 8 starts, and the Klingons are accusing of sabotage. Maybe it was an accident, wasn't an attack. Did the cave collapse? We didn't know anything about a cave. And they're like, well, it's a big-ass cave down there. Maybe you didn't know about it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. And once again, Kirk and Kaylan put a stop to the fighting because fighting has started again. And by the way, that stop is not going to last long because there's Kislath drawn on Kirk again. And I wrote down Chekhov KO1.
Yeah.
Ain't going to be no rematch. This is the second time already he's taken him down. Chekhov. It's like Kislath really needs to hit the gym a little bit. I'm just saying. Chekhov's about 5'2" and 115 pounds. He's just wiping the floor with Kislath. It's embarrassing. Yep. So anyway, the mining equipment has fallen through this hole in the ceiling of this cave, and down below is a city that's magnificent. Right? It's ancient, thousands of years old, but it has fantastic technology. It has an electric road, for example, that if you touch it, it hums, and you get a little kind of like ooh la la feeling whenever you lean up against a fence post or anything like that. It's like sitting on the washing machine when it's on tumble dry or whatever. I don't know. That's what I've heard. Not from experience. I'm not saying from experience.
But you observed at the laundromat. I get it.
That's right. And then it does not take long before Thrall Von Da, by the way, the Andorian, is ecstatic about this. He's like, this is gonna be fantastic. I'm gonna get in all the papers, right? I'm gonna have papers in all the papers and all the journals, and I'm gonna be famous and world famous and galactic famous. Meanwhile, would it surprise you if I told you that Kislath, the Klingon, has started another phaser fight? This guy is the worst. How long do you think it would have taken for Krug, for example, from Star Trek 3 before? He shot a guy because he was too good at target practice. He was like, "Oh, I hit my target too well, but now I told you not to get a bullseye." This guy would not have lasted 2 minutes. But of course, Vardamann, who's writing this, doesn't have Christopher Lloyd's fine performance as a Klingon commander.
Christopher Lloyd really is underappreciated for that role. I don't know that everybody thinks of him as a great adversary or a great Klingon all the time. He was tremendous.
I think he was between the original series and Next Generation, he was the one guy who really had a meaty Klingon role, I think, right? Because by the time Star Trek 4 comes out, we got an ambassador.
And that guy, he does look like you.
Yeah,
He does not give off that same aura of menace. Like, Krug is kind of cool but crazy.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's just what you want in a Klingon.
That's right. Well, who's not is Kislath. Kislath is not what you want in a Klingon. Once again, he's starting to fight, and this time Chekhov and Kirk and Avitz are in a phaser fight. They're using stun, of course. But Kirk does use his does set the overload on his phaser and uses it as a grenade. It's going to destroy some of the city, but that's the price you got to pay if the Federation is going to survive. But however, the city is damaged.
Eggs, right, Butch?
What's that? Yeah, break some eggs. Speaking of breaking some eggs, the damage caused by the phaser, Kirk's watching, and it says he feels a little queasy when he realizes the city is repairing itself. What? That's crazy. That's like Borg type shit.
It is.
I start to look for them laser pointer things that the Borg always use when I hear that. So, of course, they don't know about Borg yet either, so it's fine. It's okay. So, Kaylan once again stuns the traitor Kislath. It says he has exceeded his authority. That's the phrase that he uses, and he's going to get punished for it. But that doesn't mean that Kirk and Kaylan, the commander, are friends yet. They still hate each other. I don't need your help with this guy. I'll take him down and I'll deal out some Klingon justice on him. And then we get more sculpting by Lieutenant Kyle in the transporter room.
Yeah.
Spock, says that Thro Van Da, the Andorian scientist, wrote a paper about a city just like this, very similar to this, like years ago.
Like a speculative paper.
Yeah, like I wonder if there could be a city like this, and now there's a city just like this. But we don't have much time to think about it because guess who's shooting at us? The Klingon ship. So it's battle stations. If I gave you three guesses at who's responsible for the Klingon ship shooting, would you have trouble figuring it out by now?
I'm stumped. I'm gonna take a flyer and say Kislath.
I think the author definitely goes to the Kislath is disobeying orders again and starting a fight again. This is the fourth time.
So are you saying he's gone to the well a little often?
Yeah, I'm saying the well is run dry at this point. So. And the Klingons, of course, are shooting at the Enterprise, and they have like the constant beam on there. They estimate they got 10 minutes before the shields will be down. And I don't want to say Spock is having a problem, an existential crisis about it. He's acting a little bit fatalistic. Sulu exclaims that it's suicide not to return fire. It feels like there's mutiny brewing on the bridge of the Enterprise at this point, because Kirk's like, look, I'm not shooting back, because if we shoot back, we're starting a war. And Spock says, and I wrote it down, you just don't understand. They're too powerful. They'll destroy us.
That doesn't sound like the Spock I know.
It doesn't. But again, if he's writing Spock out of character, it's okay, because Spock is out of character. And Spock knows he's out of character. It's still hard to hear Spock say that. They're going to kill us all. Die. Thank you. Okay. We're on the same page. Glad to hear we didn't even have to compare notes. And I was like, and I wrote, guess who's commanding the terror? That's right. Kislath. Damn it. Somebody do something about Kislath. For crying out loud. He is a pain in the ass, I'll tell you. So, Kirk gets out of the unwinnable ship battle, however, by challenging Kislath to a duel. Which he also can't win, probably, at least according to Bones. Bones like, you'd have no chance against this guy. I was like, Chekhov taking him out twice. How hard is it going to be for me to take him out?
Yeah, Kirk's been around the block. I think he can handle himself. He's fought a Gorn.
That's exactly right. If he can handle a Gorn. I mean, Gorns are a little slower. I don't want to say Gorns are slower, but... So anyway, they go down to the planet, and immediately this one-on-one duel is a one-on-one-on-one duel, because for some reason, Kaylan and Kislath and Kirk, we're just going to call them KKK for now, are down on the planet's surface, and they're all shooting at each other for some reason. And the action gets a little muddled here, and I'm not sure why or how you ended up in a situation where all three of them are fighting in the city, but they are. Kirk stuns Kislath. Kislath blasts a hole through Kaylan, but he survives. And now McCoy's going to have to fix him up. And McCoy says, I'm a doctor, not a veterinarian.
Should have said I don't make house calls. Am I right?
Yes, he should have said that. That's right. Well, they're bringing him up to the Enterprise. So, damn it, he even that wouldn't have gotten him out of it. So, Kaylan insists that they didn't harm the Vulcans, and he sneers at the Federations for being peaceniks and stuff like that. Well, we would have told you if we killed him. It's not like we're against killing people, but we didn't do it. So, quit blaming us for it. Whatever. And that's the end of Chapter 9. So now we've got the Klingon commander on the Enterprise for the second time in the episode. Nobody's gone over to the other ship, I guess. And the Klingon is on board, and he has Kaline there, who's in surgery, but he also has Kislath, who's in custody, right? Because Kislath was all the thing to get him down on the planet, and they got him down on the planet. The ships aren't fighting anymore, so that's good. And they come to an agreement. They come to a quick deal. The Klingons get the mineral rights to the planet for everything, not just the topoline, but they can have everything they want. All the Federation wants is access to that dig site, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, he's like, by the way, he says that Spock would make a good Klingon, which is fun. And then he says that Klingon justice is like, when we punish somebody, we punish them. It's like, they know they've been punished. No cobbler for you tonight. No. It's like, how do you feel with 3 fingers now, buddy? We'll call you all 3 fingers Kislath. That's what we'll call you. And he predicts that Kislath will end his days on, as you mentioned before, a penal asteroid. Repente! Yeah.
Did you notice, Butch, that I named my deep cuts list Repente?
You're damn right I did, because it's 6. That's right. The undiscovered Repente. That's right. So, yeah.
I threw in a little Easter egg for you.
God bless you for that. So then there's a little blackmail, and Kislath's like, yeah, by the way, when we were down there, before the Andorians got there, we found an orb in the pyramid, and we studied it. It's nothing. You guys can have it. It's fine, right? Whatever. We'll get Kislath. You can have the orb. Everybody, we get mining rights. We'll go our separate ways. And so they do, and then their greeting is like, Kirk's like, may all your ventures end so successfully. And Kalen's like, may death come swiftly. I thought that was fun. The Federation Klingon relationship in a nutshell. Yeah, and they study this orb, and it's an artifact of immense internal power. Mm-hmm. And then so they've put it in a shielded box, and suddenly everybody's kind of back to normal. Like, just like that. Like, whatever this orb thing was having an effect on people.
Kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy. So, in no time, they show a picture of the artifact to Thrall von Da, and he's, enthusiastic, obviously, although less so than before because he's not being affected by the orb. Chapel and Avitz, who were fighting, calling each other sluts in the hallway, decide to share some Danebian peppermint liquor instead. Give me the Danebian! Yes, exactly. So
I find that hard to believe that they would just I don't care what.
Yeah, it seems odd. Well, maybe they come to the conclusion, by the way, neither of us have a shot at him. It doesn't really matter. We can sit here and fight about all we want to.
Yeah, that's true.
Sulu and Chekhov are marveling at how close war was, and I was like, oh, Sulu gets a line in this. That's great. Good for Sulu. And by the way, Chekhov's the reason that the Enterprise came close to war several times. So he's
Chekhov's like, wow, that's weird.
And Scotty and McConnell realized that they were kind of wasting time in the whole engine efficiency thing. So this is their way of resetting and saying everybody's kind of come to their senses. So good for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're on to chapter 11, our final chapter, and we're in wrap-up mode at this point, right? So the wrap-up mode of this is that, that jewel is kind of like, and I wrote this, kind of like the shore leaf planet all along, but you're right, it's like Encounter at Farpoint. It was basically manifesting all these things that people were thinking of, right? If, say, your surgeon thinks of some fabric and all of a sudden the fabric's there, that's Encounter at Farpoint. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. So I was like, if that's true, then why can't Scotty have just, imagined some engine efficiencies or whatever? But the big realization in all this is that big city that they found that's 8,000 or 10,000 years old is not anything of the sort. It's like a manifestation of Dr. Thrall von Da. And they're like, I can't wait to tell him that big city he's down there digging, he came up with that in a paper 10 years ago, and then his brain just made it happen. That's going to be great.
And he could probably write a paper about that.
That's exactly right. So Kirk and Kalen reach what they call a mutually beneficial agreement. The food synthesizers are fixed. The crew report is submitted to the Admiral as planned. The Vulcans, they determined that the reason all the Vulcans died is because what they wanted is they wanted to, when an entity becomes like really advanced and pure intellect, it ceases to be a corporeal entity and it becomes like the Organians, just pure energy or one of the many pure energy creatures that we've encountered in Star Trek. And so they figured that's what happened to the Vulcans.
not going to be bound by our, bodies holding us back or whatever.
Yeah, so the Vulcans aren't dead. They have just moved on. So that's good. I guess. Yeah, so you're standing in the ship. All right. I'm feeling some. It's getting cold in this room. All right. If you're hearing me, make a noise or something. Blink this light on and off. It's getting cold in here, bro. So cold in here, bro. So cold.
Like, hey, I think I'll evolve, but maybe I'll write a note for my parents, or I don't know.
Yep.
But it's like that's almost what happened to Spock, then, right?
Yeah, he had that moment where he came close when he was imagining that point of perfect union or whatever. That was what he was imagining is becoming like the non. But he didn't do it or just wouldn't go through with it. But the Vulcans all did. So good for them.
You know why that is, Butch?
Why is that?
Peer pressure.
That's right, exactly. They didn't want to be the one guy in their scientific team to say no to that. Then you're just, hey, what happened to the rest of your crew? Well, they all went off to, the next the plane of existence, and I'm stuck here, and all I got is this lousy T-shirt.
It occurred to me, Butch, with the way that they seem to have a lot, maybe not all, but it sure seems like it, where the male Vulcans' names are 5 letters and start with an S.
Yeah.
Right? Stan, Sarek, Spock. There's probably out there a Stan.
Stan, yeah.
And a Sean.
A Sean,
right?
Yep, of course, yeah.
So, that's kind of cool to think about.
A Scott? No, Scott doesn't work. But yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah. SCOTT?
Yeah,
why wouldn't it?
It's 5 letters, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah,
Steve?
so...
There's a Steve out there.
Steve. Yeah, I'm a Vulcan. Oh, Steve, you must be Vulcan. You're Steve. Yeah, exactly. All right, so then they the last thing is they're like, back off to Delta Canaris for more studies. So back to the boring stuff. Having had this exciting quote-unquote Klingon Gambit. So now we're down. That's our 4th novel, Rob. Where do you have the Klingon Gambit in your rankings?
Well, let me tell you, Butch. He said stalling for time, as he had forgotten to.
All right. Well, I'll go first then. How about that?
Okay.
So I put the Klingon Gambit at number 4. It's interesting, but it kind of like it's all the characters are out of character. We learned it mostly on purpose, but still, it's like part of what makes for a good novel is when they can write the characters in character. I think the way we like them. And they don't really do that here, but it's by design, but they still don't do it. So I have this at 4. It comes in slightly behind Doctor's Orders, which I still have at 3. That was the first one we did, which is the one where they go to the planet with the 3 different alien species,
the little pyramid,
and the little and then number 2 we had Corona, which is Greg Bear's novel about the sentient stars.
Which was pretty good.
Yeah, which is pretty good. I think there's a definite dividing line between 2 and 3. And then I still have at number 1, My Enemy, My Ally. What do you got?
I have the exact same list. This one was, okay, I don't ever need to read it again. Same with Doctor's Orders, frankly. But I will give this bonus points. I don't think this is going to end up at number 50 because it was short and breezy and felt like an episode. So I'm cool with it. It's fine.
I did not find it objectionable.
Right. And in fact, in that sense, because there was some things that annoyed me about Doctor's Orders, but I still think Doctor's Orders is better. Corona was interesting and had some good stuff in it, but I thought My Enemy, My Ally was great. So. Yep,
there you go. All right, so listen, it's almost the holidays. This means it's time to roll our next book, Rob.
I'm excited, Butch. I've been waiting.
And it being near the holidays, how about we do a twofer and we roll the next 2 books?
Okay.
What say? You cool with that? All right. So as you know, we have a list of 50 books. We've done 4, which means there's 46 left. So we have the dice that'll determine 10, if it's the first 10, second 10, third 10, fourth 10, or fifth 10, and then the dice that determines which of those 10 it will be. So here we go. With the first book, the rolling will happen now. We learned, ladies and gentlemen, that this is exactly how certain jurisdictions in Georgia resolve some of their election snafus, is by rolling dice, just like we're doing. They got it from us. We didn't get it from them, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Yeah, you know it's good when they're using it for elections. That's how you know it's good. All right, here we go.
Or you know it's deeply flawed.
Maybe. That's right. All right. So the next novel is from the first grouping, and it's the 10th one, which means it's novel 10, Rob. Do you know what novel 10 is?
No, but I could walk over to my book.
Web of the Romulans.
I remember that being a good one.
Number 5.
Isn't that part of that like Romulan trilogy or something?
I don't remember if it's part of the Romulan trilogy because that's by our author that we've already done.
Oh, that's right.
Diane Duane. All right, so here we go. The next book, that's number 5. The next book, number 6, is this one. Holy cow, we are wearing out the first 10, Rob. The next book is off the first 10. It's book 7. Do you know what book 7 is?
No, I don't.
Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Hell yeah.
I hear that's a good story. So our next 2 books.
It'll be interesting to see what nuggets are slipped in there that weren't able to be put in the film.
That's exactly right. I know that my memory serves that there's details about some of the characters like Lieutenant Savick in the novels for 2 and 3 that are not in the movies for 2 and 3.
But if I remember, those influence, how you view her when you're watching the film. So they have an impact, even though these and I suppose the novel for a motion picture probably is canon. I don't know. Is it, Butch? Because really
I think so.
Novels aren't most of the time, but
yeah. Well, yeah, the novelization of something that was on screen usually has more weight than a novelization that wasn't, because it's a story that was told, right? It's just more details of a story that was told. All right, so that means we are both of our next 2 novels are in the first 10 novels. So number 7 or number 10, Web of the Romulans, is next, and then after that, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. We have until now and the end of the holidays to get through these books, so we got ourselves 2, so that if we end up on vacation somewhere, which I'm going to, and need some reading material and are worried we'll run out with just 1, that's why we're bringing 2. So
yeah, I think I read Wrath of Khan this summer just for fun.
You did, if I remember. So.
Yeah. So it'll be fresh in my mind.
Fresh on your mind. So that'll be an interesting one because we'll be able to talk about not just the story, but about what's different in the book than from the movie. So that'll be great.
Yes, that will be.
So
and they wrote the novel after the fact, right? It's after the movie, right?
I think that's how it works usually. Or it's after the movie's done, and sometimes it's after the movie's been produced, and sometimes it's while the movie's in production and they write it off of a script or something like that. So it all depends on how it works. So sometimes they do it one way or the other. So, well, that's Rob. Anything else to say about our good, fun time we had with the Klingon Gambit?
I will say, with Thanksgiving having been yesterday, I am thankful for Star Trek and for Star Trek novels and for getting to talk about them with you, Butch.
Me too. Same goes for me. And so join us next time, Trek fans, here on Is That a Trek in Your Pocket, the novel reviews.
Yeah, happy Green Friday, everybody.